Here we are, born to be kings. We're the princes of the
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of Age of the Realms. This is our series of Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle reports. This is battle report number 34. It is a 1,000 point battle that is fought between Sylvaneth as well as Stormcast Eternals. My friend Smells Like Febreze is bringing his Wild Hunt, and I'm taking him on with the Lords of Azure Skies. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's an order versus order combat. It's going to be kind of interesting to see exactly how this battle plays out, since both armies can deep strike and teleport onto the battlefield, so it brings up a lot of challenges on this one. We're playing a knife to the heart scenario, so we're playing a new scenario from the new rulebook, the General's Handbook that came out for 2018, so it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly what happens. So with that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the armies look like and exactly what they're bringing, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this battle report on the roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about the scenario rules real quick. This, as you can see on this table, we're fighting on a 4x4 table since it's a 1,000 point battle. We're playing a knife to the heart scenario. Pretty much pitch battle rules apply for the entire battlefield. However, the entire battlefield is divided diagonally from the bottom left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner. And basically in the middle of each deployment area is one objective marker. The goal of the battle is for you to control as many objectives as possible, either controlling one objective or controlling both objectives. If by turn 5 a player controls both objectives, it is considered a major victory, and if by the end of the time the game runs out, if the player with the highest point total wins a minor victory in case nobody controls both objective points. Points are determined by the point values of destroyed enemy units, and that is how you determine the winner in case nobody controls both of the objectives. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go and talk about the battle plan for this one. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the battlefield. As you can see, my friend Smells Like Febreze deployed in the bottom right-hand corner. I am deployed in the bottom left-hand corner. Top left-hand corner, rather. And pretty much what the plan is that I plan on just trying to stretch out my opponent as quickly as possible. Both of us have deep strike abilities. You can both teleport to the battlefield. Smells Like Febreze has travel along the realm routes. I have traveling along the lightning bolts with riding the lightning. So pretty much what my plan is hopefully what I can do, because his general is deployed on the battlefield right now, is deploy my forces into into his deployment area, seize his objective and hold it, and hopefully hold him to that area and just kind of fight in that location and keep all the action on his end of the battlefield. And that's pretty much what the plan is going for this one. My plan as well is also to kill that general as quickly as possible, because that general can summon up Sylvaneth Wildwoods like it's nobody's business, especially since he has like silent communion ability as well as this verdant blessing spell. So I have to basically take that guy out so that way I can take away all the advantages that the Sylvaneth have with those wildwoods. So with the battle plan over with, we go directly to deployment. Alright, so here's the plan for the Sylvaneth for Smells Like Febreze. As you can see right next to that Sylvaneth Wildwood, he has his General Coadil the Willow Lord, that's his Tree Lord Ancient. He has Randu's Lementiri, which lives him get +1 to casting deep wood lore spells. He's also got the Verdant Blessing spell, which allows him to summon up Sylvaneth Wildwood. He can also do so with Silent Communion. He's pretty good in combat, pretty good in magic, just an overall really good unit. As you can see, that's the only thing he has on his table, because the rest of his army is waiting on the Realm Roots, waiting to ambush me on the table. And we go directly to deployment for the Stormcast Eternals. As you can see, not much of my army is on the table either. Up on the tower, I have Lord Grim, my Lord Relictor. He's got his Blessed Weapons ability as well. And right there next to the my objective marker is my Jury, which is my unit of 5 Judicators armed with Sky Bolts bows as well as Shock Bolt bows with a Prime. So there's a look here right there as well. And as you can see, the rest of my army is awaiting up in the heavens, getting ready to ride down the lightning to deploy on the battlefield as well. And like I said, not much really going on over here. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, now that deployment's over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1. We roll to see who gets initiative on this one. Alright, so we go to the top of turn number 1. As you can see in this photo, I've got the initiative on this one. So we go directly to the hero phase. The very first thing I do is I take Lord Grim. I have him cast his Bless the Weapons ability onto my Judicators. What that does is that if my Judicators roll a 6 to hit with any of their weapons, they get to re-roll another hit as well. So pretty useful, considering these guys are my long-range shooting options. And since the rest of my army is off the table right now, that is the only thing I can do during the hero phase. So with the hero phase over with, we go directly to the movement phase. And cue in AC/DC's Thunderstrike, because my army is now on the table. So I used the Scions of the Storms ability real quick to deploy my army. I got pretty lucky. All of my units, I rolled a 3 up on my D6. That way all of them can deploy on the battlefield. The only stipulation is that they must be at least 9 inches away from enemy units. So as you can see, basically deployed all my forces, the remaining forces, on my enemy's deployment area. I have my Lord Celis on Dragoth, Lord Ios of Azure Earth, as well as my judges. They're kind of making like a little circle defense position around the objective marker in the middle of Smells Like Febrze's deployment area. At the same time, I also deploy my executioners, my 5 paladin retributors on the north there, 9 inches away from Coadil the Will Lord, and then I also deploy my prosecutors on the left hand side there. It's kind of cut off on the bottom there, but I'll do a close real quick. That's my witnesses, and they're exactly 9 inches away from Coadil the Will Lord as well. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase on this one. And I forgot to mention my Judicator, the Jury, they move up 5 inches forward away from the deployment area from the objective markers. That way they can get within range with their bows. I forgot to mention that. So here's a close-up of them moving up to get within range of shooting. Here's a close-up of Lord Ios as well as the judges getting a defensive position and perimeter around that objective marker. So that way I can control both objectives. And here's a close-up of my executioners getting ready to charge into Coadil the Willow Lord and hopefully bring the pain when they do. So that'll be kind of nice. And finally, my 3 witnesses, the 3 prosecutors in my army armed with paracelestial hammers. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So with move phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And as you can see in the shooting phase, I actually got pretty lucky on this one. I managed to cause 4 wounds onto Coadil the Willow Lord, so I got really lucky with my shots. I think in the end I ended up firing like 8 shots total with the Skybolt bow as well as the other Sky Storm bows, or what are they called. I managed to get that. Luckily for me, my weapons do cause rends, so whatever additional cover saves you would have gotten from the Sylvaneth Wildwood was negated by that, so it only has a regular 3-up save. So I managed to put 4 wounds on, which is pretty cool. And that makes them nice and softened up now, so that way my paladins and my prosecutors can hopefully charge in and hopefully destroy him in close combat. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the charge phase. And as you can see in this photo, both my prosecutors as well as my retributors make it in there. So because of the witnesses and the executioners are about to go to Hammertown and basically play Hammer Time onto Coadil the Will Lord during the combat phase. So with that being said, we go directly to the combat phase. And as you can see in this photo, Coadil the Will Lord is killed right off the bat in the very first turn of the battle, which is extremely important for me because now Smells Like Febreze is not able to summon up anything at this point. Pretty much my executioners were the ones who basically did all the damage. I think 3 of them rolled 6s, including my my executioner Prime. So because of that, all their attacks basically dish out 2 mortal wounds apiece for each one that is successful 6. So because of that, I think it put like 6 wounds that way, and then like the other 2 wounds came from my other retributors as well. So because of that, Coadil the Will Lord fell like the tree trunk that he is and destroyed him. So because of that, my objective is secured. I've secured my enemy objective. I also made sure that my enemy can't summon up any more Sylvaneth Wildwood. So overall, it is a win as far as I'm concerned. There is no Battleshock phase because there's nothing on the battlefield for my enemy to take a Battleshock test with. And because of that, we go directly to the bottom terminal 1 for the Sylvaneth. So because the Sylvaneth heroes are dead in this army, we go directly to the move phase, and this is where I realized I made a huge tactical mistake. Actually, when I actually made my first moves, my first turn, I was so overeager to kill Codel the Will Lord, just to take away the ability from the summon of Sylvaneth Wildwoods, that I forgot that by sitting all my forces into my enemy's deployment area and only leaving like a shoestring group to protect my own objective, that I forgot that my opponent has 2 Sylvaneth Wildwoods. He has one in the bottom right hand corner in his deployment area, and he has one in the upper left hand corner in my deployment area. And I totally forgot that he had that Sylvaneth Wildwood there. It was a kind of a juvenile mistake, but you know what? I was just really bloodthirsty is what it was. I was blood hungry. I had the bloodlust going and I wanted to kill something. That's what I'm going with. But anyhow, as you can see in the photo, my opponent, Smells Like Febreze, decides to deploy almost his entire army up in the left-hand corner. He brings in his Dryads, the Court of Seasons, brings his 2 units of Kurnoth Hunters from the Troop of Dusk as well as the Troop of Dawn. He does try to bring in his Tree Revenants for the Court of Heralds, but unfortunately for him, though, he failed his roll on that one, so because of they're kind of stuck in the realm roots for this turn, so they won't be able to pop out later on. And that pretty much makes it the move phase for the Sylvaneth on this one. So as you can see here, there's a close-up of his employment, or my enemy in the middle of my deployment area. So things have the tide has kind of turned on this one. So you can see all of his Dryads coming out of the Sylvaneth Wildwoods. He rolled a 6 for both his Troop of Dusk as well as the Troop of Dawn. So because that, not only do they deploy in the Sylvaneth Wildwood, but they also get a normal movement phase as well. So they move up their 5 inches, getting closer with their movement towards my jury. And the reason why is because these Kurnoth Hunters are armed with Kurnoth Great Bows, and those things are the stuff of nightmares. Because I used to play Sylvaneth, so I know exactly how good they are, and so I'm absolutely terrified by those things as well. And so that makes up the move phase on this part. Alright, so we go directly into the shooting phase. As you can see in this photo, my buddy Smells Like Febreze concentrates fire with both units of Troop of Dusk as well as Dawn into my Liberators from the judges. And he managed to cause 7 wounds onto that unit as well. I was unable to stop most of it because Kurnoth Great Bows, like I said before, are made of nightmares. And so because I lose 3 of my Liberators as well as put a floating wound onto another one, so that was absolutely devastating because he just basically took my 10-man unit of Liberators and basically cut it down to a third of its, cut it down by a third, which is pretty frightening. And now I just realized that I'm going to have to foot slog it across this battlefield to make it back to my deployment area, and those Kurnoth Great Bows are going to be shooting at me the entire time. So that was absolutely terrible to know that. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the charge phase. And because I'm a moron in this battle report, I only left Judicators behind to watch my deployment area. Those Kurnoth Hunters charge directly into my jury. So because of that, both the Troop of Dawn as well as the Troop of Dusk have made combat fall with my guys, so we'll have to fight on close combat. Now, Kurnoth Great Bow wielding Kurnoth Hunters are pretty mediocre when it comes to close combat because they attack with their quiverlings, which are like these little insectoid things that hold their arrows. So that part is kind of the nice part about this combat. They're not carrying great swords or great skies, so don't worry about that kind of damage. However, these are still Kurnoth Hunters, and they bring the pain no matter what they're bringing. And plus, not to mention, they also get stomp attacks too if any of them survive, which cause mortal wounds. So that is absolutely terrifying to see that happen. So with the charge phase over with, we go directly to combat. So here's the result of the combat phase. Needless to say, they killed 3 of my Judicators, so 3 of the members of the jury are now dead, and I failed to inflict a single wound back in return because these guys are Kurnoth Hunters. They are made of kryptonite dipped in depleted uranium and forging weapons made of adamantium because Kurnoth Hunters are just the illest. I'm not going to lie. I loved using them when I played Sylvaneth, and I hate fighting against them when I play against them, so that part was kind of devastating to see that happen. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the Battleshock phase. Luckily for me, because of my general's command ability, where basically no one has to take with the Battleshock test within range of him, my Liberators basically stand on the ground. No one really goes anywhere. It's just horrible knowing that about a third of my guys got killed with the opening salvo of Kurnoth Great Bows. However, for my Judicators, I did fail my Battleshock test, and I did lose one of my Judicators in the process of that, so the only guy that's left is my Judicator Prime, staring down 6 very angry Kurnoth Hunters. So with the Battleshock phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Stormcast Eternals. Alright, so that takes the top of turn number 2 for the hero phase for the Stormcast Eternals, and the very first thing I do is I activate Lord Grimm's abilities because he is a hero. I do cast the Storm Call ability, or basically I come up a Lightning Storm, and I basically put it onto the members of the Troop of Dawn, which is that unit of 3 Kurnoth Hunters on the right-hand side. Luckily for me, I do cause 3 mortal wounds on that unit, so because that one of them is now carrying 3 wounds, and also that unit will have to suffer -1 to hit when it comes to their attacks, so that part was kind of nice as well. At the same time, I also put my Bless the Weapons ability on the Judicator Primes. That way he has a little bit more of a chance of, fighting back. Hopefully I can get 2 shots off of that character during the shooting phase. And that pretty much makes the hero phase on my end of the deployment area. Meanwhile, I use the brand new command ability that came out with the new rules pack, which is on the double, which means that whenever you do an advance roll for your troops to see how fast they run, it automatically becomes a 6, because I have a lot of table to get past, and Stormcast Eternals are not exactly the fastest army in the world, so because of that, I have to kind of like heli on as quickly as I possibly can to get towards them. So that makes it the hero phase in this one. So with the hero phase over with, we go directly to the movement phase. And as you can see in this photo, my troops just kind of zoom across the battlefield as quickly as they possibly can. I move up my my Liberators up the maximum amount of movement, which is 11 inches, so they get to the base of that wall just outside the farm there. I also move up my Lord Celestin. I don't run with him, I just move up his normal 10 inches because that way I can use his Storm Breath ability on his Dracoth and hopefully, whittle down that unit of Kurnoth Hunters a little bit. On the left-hand side, I also move up my Prosecutors, just their normal wound allowance, so that way they're within the maximum range of their Celestial Hammers, so hopefully some shooting there will help out a little bit, taking down the Troop of Dusk. And then finally, of course, I advance forward with my Paladins. I think I rolled like a 3 for their advance, which they moved up 7 inches, and they moved directly to secure the enemy objective and the enemy deployment area. And that pretty much makes it the movement phase on this one. Here's a close-up of my Prosecutors getting ready to bring the Fury down with some paired Celestial Hammer firepower goodness. So hopefully these guys will not, shame me like they have done in other battle reports, and hopefully they'll do pretty good this time. And here's a picture of my very slow executioners like turtle crawling away all over the battlefield, trying to close the distance on my enemy's objective. And finally, here's a photo of my Liberators as well as my Lord Celestin getting ready to try to cover as much ground as possible to engage those Kurnoth Hunters and hopefully take back my objective area. And that pretty much makes the move phase. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, I actually did pretty good on this one. I managed to cause, I think it was 3 mortal wounds, I think is ended up the cause with my Storm Breath ability. I did kill one of the Kurnoth Hunters from the Troop of Dawn. Also managed to put 2 more wounds. One wound. There we go. I managed to put 1 wound onto the onto that Kurnoth Hunter over there as well. Also, at the same time, when I opened fire with my Shock Bolt bow for my Judicator Prime, unfortunately for me, I only managed to get 1 shot off and managed to put another wound onto that guy as well. So now 1 Kurnoth Hunter is dead while the other one is about halfway dead at the same time. And then my Prosecutors, too normal affair. They only managed to cause 1 wound onto one of the members of the Kurnoth Hunters from the Troop of Dusk. So that's that's Prosecutors for you. They're not very good for me, so I really don't like using them all that often. But hey, I'll use them because that's what I have right now for my Stormcast Eternals army. So with shooting, we go to the combat as well as the Battleshock phases, and as you can see in this photo, my Judicator Prime just got wiped out. He just got curb stomped to death by the Kurnoth Hunters from the Troop of Dawn. So that part was kind of sad. But you know what? These guys are Kurnoth Hunters. These guys are like miniature heroes. They got 5 wounds, really good saves, really good attacks. There's nothing that these guys can't do. They also put out mortal wounds. They're just awesome. And if they hold their ground, they get +1 to their saves. Man, I forgot how cool it is playing with Kurnoth Hunters in Age of Sigmar. I'm starting to miss my Sylvaneth army a little bit. But anyways, that's what took place for the Battleshock as well as combat phases. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Sylvaneth. So we skip the hero phase because all the heroes are dead. We go straight to the move phase, and as you can see in this photo, my buddy Smells Like Febreze starts moving his forces forward. First thing he does, he moves up his Kurnoth Hunters. Actually, I'm sorry, he doesn't move his Kurnoth Hunters at all. I apologize. He keeps them exactly where they're at, so that way they can get the +1 save bonus to their armor strikes, because if they hold their ground, they kind of plant their roots into the ground, and it also heads up with their saves as well. At the same time, he just moves up normal 7 inches of his Dryads to surround my objective marker within my deployment area. At the same time, his his Tree Revenants, they actually make it onto the table finally. Well, 6 this time. So because not only do they actually show up on the table, but they also have a normal movement allowance as well. So those guys move 5 inches towards the tower my Lord Relictor is located at. And that's another example piece of my army too. My Lord Relictors and my Prosecutors don't do very well for me in these battle reports. So they're kind of mediocre, kind of lackluster. So, they are what they are at this point. So not much I can do about it. So that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. Here's a close-up of that unstoppable wall, which is the Kurnoth Hunters holding their ground and getting ready to get their bonuses to their saves and to hold whatever comes their way. At the same time, you can also make out the dryads surrounding the objective marker that used to be in my deployment area. And here's a close-up of the 5 tree revenants making their way closer to Lord Grim on the top of the tower, which is just awesome because, you know, why wouldn't you go after Lord Grim at this point? So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And once again, Kurnoth Hunters show exactly why they're the illest when it comes to shooting. They managed to put 6 wounds onto my judges, managed to kill 3 more of my liberators. So the only thing I have left now is my Liberator Prime and then 3 more liberators and then my general. So whatever my offensive force was to kind of attack and take back the deployment area is slowly getting willed away by Kurnoth Great Bowfire. And not only that, I have to fight these guys in close combat as well. So things are looking pretty bad for me. I think I might have made a misstep. I made a tactical error here. And things are not looking very good so far. And in the charge phase, as you can see, believe it or not, what ends up happening is that Lord Grim, of course, gets swarmed by the tree revenants. So of course he's going to be attacked. So bye Lord Relictor, because you know he always gets killed whenever things like this end up happening. And I forgot to mention, I actually made a mistake a little while ago. I originally said that the Kurnoth Hunters didn't move. When I made a mistake on that one. What happened is that my buddy decided to charge them anyways, because after he saw that he killed 3 of my my liberators, he decided that, you know what, he was smelling the blood in the water and he wanted to finish those guys off. So he did charge his Kurnoth Hunters into my army. So I forgot to take a photo of that. I apologize on this part. But anyways, as you can see here, imagine those all 5 Kurnoth Hunters charging to my liberators, because that's exactly what they did. And then now you have my Lord Relictor facing down 5 tree revenants, because killing characters is what tree revenants do best. So with charge phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And it's at this point in the battlefield, I think that my Lord Relictor might be sentient, because I think he's been hearing my opinions about me. He actually unleashes just a wrath of just like blade and death in this battle and this fight. I've never seen my Lord Relictor ever do anything like so amazing before. So he has basically 5 attacks, all right? So that's what he has. He has 4 attacks with his relic hammers, all he has. So I took all 4 of my dice and I roll them. Not only do all 4 manage to hit, but 3 of those 4 managed to wound. The only reason why one of them didn't wound is because one of the tree revenants managed to make their armor save. But if that hadn't happened, all 4 of his attacks would have hit as well as wound as well. And that was like, I've never seen that before. My Lord Relictor is mediocre at best, and I was just absolutely surprised that he actually did that. So good on him. It's about time Lord Grim started earning his points. So as you can see there, I put 3 kills onto the tree revenants, and to make things even better, when the Court of Heralds try to attack back, Lord Grim's armor save saved him from all the attacks, so that was pretty awesome as well. So kudos to my Lord Relictor, because, you know, that never happens, not ever. And combat over here went as pretty much as well as you can expect. I did manage to put 3 wounds onto the Kurnoth Hunters of the Troop of Dawn. Managed to kill one of those hunters as well, so that part was kind of nice. However, in return, they managed to kill 2 of my liberators as well. Their equivalent attacks really didn't do much of anything. They actually kind of flowed the rules a little bit on those equivalent attacks, so I got pretty lucky on that part. However, it was the stomps. The stomps from the mortal wounds, though, that was the thing that actually did it. Those 4 guys stomped away and managed to kill my 2 liberators by doing that. So that was absolutely terrifying to see that. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the Battleshock phase. And as you can see in this photo, those tree revenants must have just been just as surprised as I was at my Lord Relictor's ability, and those guys flew off the table because they're like, don't want any of that. So I was absolutely surprised to see that actually happen. So I might have to rethink what I say about my Lord Relictor, because he's actually proven to be pretty awesome at this point. So that part was kind of nice. Unfortunately, I forgot to take a photo of the Battleshock phase for my Liberators, but luckily for me, when I rolled to see what actually happened to them, they actually rolled a 1, so they got to stay encouraged, so they didn't go off the table at all. So I got really lucky with my Liberators at this point as well. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Stormcast Eternals. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the hero phase of the Stormcast Eternals. And as you can see in this photo, my Lord Relictor must be really trying to prove himself to me, because he does get off his Lightning Storm ability again, and this time managed to put down 3 mortal wounds onto the Troop of Dusk as well. So now those guys are carrying 4 wounds, which is awesome as well, and they have -1 to hit as well for their attacks. So, man, my Lord Relictor, I guess he's trying to prove something to me, I guess, huh? At the same time, I also put my General's ability, my command ability for Lord of the Host, so that way my Liberators don't have to worry about taking another Battleshock test, because there's only 2 of them, and I really don't want them to have to break at that point. So that's the hero phase over here in the center portion of the board. And at the same time, my Lord Relictor also gets his Bless the Weapons ability off onto my Prosecutors because they're within range of that ability. So now if those guys roll a 6, they get additional hit for both their shooting as well as their close combat attacks. So, man, Lord Grim is really trying to press me. And I might be changing my opinion about my Lord Relictor because so far he is pretty awesome in this battle report. And at the same time, I also use my the new ability to do on the double, so that way I put that onto my Paladin Retributors because I'm going to end up needing those guys because my Liberators are not going to be able. There's not going to be enough of them to kind of push through towards my enemy to my original objective. So because of that, I'm going to have these guys move across the battlefield as quickly as possible. So yeah, that pretty much makes the hero phase on this one. So with the hero phase over with, we go directly to the movement phase. And as you can see in the movement phase here, my army just starts moving across the battlefield as quickly as possibly can to try to engage my enemy, as well as to take on his dryads as well. So you can see in the movement phase here, first off, I do move up my my prosecutors. I just move up their normal moon allowance to the left-hand flank of those Kurnoth hunters, so that way they can get some shots in with their celestial hammers, and then they can close in and charge in for close combat as well. At the same time, I also advance forward the full 10 inches with my my Paladin Retributors, so they're right there near the base of the wall, between the farm as well as the wall as well, so that way they can also cause some problems. At the same time, I do move my Lord Celestant on Dracoth. I move him up a little bit so that way he can also shoot as well, and of course he can just give me a gimme charge directly into the right hand flank of those Kurnoth hunters and deal with those guys, because as you can see on the top of the page, I have a huge tidal wave of dryads I gotta deal with here in a little bit to try to take my objective back. So the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, unfortunately for my general, he does not able to get off his Storm Breath ability with his Dracoth. I think I rolled a 1 on that one, so because of that, it didn't really pop up. However, my Prosecutors, on the other hand, they actually stepped up. They actually caused some significant damage with their Celestial Hammers. I think 2 of them rolled 2 6s, I think, so because of that, they got to do additional attacks as well. Not only those attacks hit, but they also managed to wound as well. Managed to kill 1 Kurnoth Hunter and managed to put 2 floating wounds onto the other Kurnoth Hunter for the Troop of Dusk. So I guess my Prosecutors are also listening to me as well, because now they're starting to step up too, which is kind of cool. So maybe I should have more vocalizations about how bad things are doing in my army, so that way they'll prove me wrong in my next battle report, which would be kind of nice as well. So Lord Relictor and Prosecutors, way to step it up, you guys. Pretty proud of you guys. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the charge phase. And as you can see in this photo, I move up my Prosecutors. They manage to charge indirectly into the Troop of Dusk. So because of that, now the Troop of Dusk will be fighting both my Liberators as well as my 3 Prosecutors. And they also charge in Lord Ios directly into the last remaining member of the Troop of Dawn as well. So those guys will be fighting out in close combat. So with the charge phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. As you can see in this photo, my performance from my Prosecutors kind of went lackluster again, so maybe it was just a one-time fluke, I don't know. They do manage to put 2 more wounds onto one of the Kurnoth Hunters, so one of those Kurnoth Hunters is almost dead. My Lord Celestin, needless to say, just destroyed the member of the Troop of Dawn with his Tempestos Warhammer, so that part was kind of nice. However, the attacks on the Troop of Dusk, they decided to concentrate those attacks on my 2 remaining Liberators, and unfortunately my 2 Liberators died, so because of that, my judges have been completely wiped off the face of the planet at this point. So because all my stuff is pretty much dead, there is no need for a Battleshock phase. So because of that, we go directly to the bottom to number 3 for the Sylvaneth. So for the Sylvaneth, we skip the hero phase and we go directly to the movement phase. As you can see, absolutely no movement takes place on my buddy Smells Like Febreze. He's not in any rush to come engage me. His plan is to hold on to that objective as long as possible because I'm coming for him. So because of that, his Kurnoth Hunters stay exactly where they are. Same thing with his Dryads. Here's a close-up of his Kurnoth Hunters holding their ground and also entangling their roots, so that way they get +1 to the armor save because they have no need to move at this point, because these guys are a tar pit unit for sure and they're just eating up my units alive, so that part's kind of rough. And here's a close-up of the 20 Dryads from the Courts of Seasons as well, holding down that 1 objective marker in my area. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, the Kurnoth Hunters bring the pain. They open up with their great bows on my Lord Celestant, Lord Ios, and they manage to put 6 wounds onto him. I forgot how deadly those freaking great bows are. If there is 1 Kurnoth Hunter left with a great bow, that guy can potentially cause 6 damage every single time he pulls a shot. You put 2 of them, maximum, that's 12 damage. You put 3 of them, that's a maximum of 18 damage. You put 6 of them, it's a maximum of 36 damage. I mean, Kurnoth Hunters Oh my god, I forgot how deadly these guys are when it comes to their shooting, if they get a really good roll off. No wonder I loved playing Gurnoth Hunters, which makes me wonder how much must have sucked to fight against me when I was using my Gurnoth Hunters. Now I'm starting to feel kind of bad for my opponents and my friends because I used to use those guys all kinds, and now I'm thinking maybe I was kind of mean for me to do that. But anyways, it was kind of interesting seeing that happen. It just like my Lord Celestia was like triumphant. He just got done killing a Gurnoth Hunter, then bam, over half his wounds are gone. So that was pretty sad. He only has 2 more wounds before he ends up getting killed. So that was absolutely devastating seeing that happen. Oh my god. Oh, that was just horrible. So we skip charging and we go directly to the combat as well as the Battleshock phases, and as you can see in this photo, the Gurnoth Hunters do manage to put 1 wound onto my Prosecutor, so my Prosecutors actually got pretty good on that one. And between all 3 of my Prosecutors, I managed to inflict 1 wound onto the Gurnoth Hunter, so managed to put that guy out and kill him as well, leaving only 1 Gurnoth Hunter behind. Once again, showing just how mediocre my Prosecutors really are. Maybe I'm not taking enough of them. Maybe that's my problem. I don't know. I gotta take a look at my army list and figure out what I could use instead of Prosecutors. But anyways, so with the combat and Battleshock phases over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Stormcast Eternals. Alright, so that takes directly to the hero phase for the Stormcast Eternals. As you can see in this photo, the very first thing I do is I use my Lord Relictor. I do cast the Healing Storm ability onto my my general on Lord Ios, so because I do manage to heal 2 wounds on him, so he's only carrying half the amount of wounds he usually had. At the same time, I also cast the Blessed Weapons ability prayer onto my Prosecutors as well, hopefully giving them a little bit more boost to combat as well. And that pretty much makes up the hero phase on this one. In the movement phase, I start deciding that I needed to do something against those Dryads, hopefully wipe those guys out. So the first thing I do is I move up, what's his name, my Lord Celestant, Lord Ios of Azure Earth. I move him up his normal 10 inches, so that way he can get his Storm Breath ability off onto those Dryads, hopefully soften him up a little bit before the shooting actually happens. At the same time, I also use Lord Grim. I use him as maximum movement allowance to drop him down to the outside of the tower, so that way he can charge as well. Because Lord Grim has been proving to me to be very useful thus far, so hopefully he can cause some additional damage in close combat here in a little bit. My Prosecutors right now are currently engaged with that Gurnoth Hunter, so they're busy doing that. And then I take my Paladin Retributors, I move up their maximum movement allowance of 4 inches. Now, they're about 9 inches away, 9.5, almost 10 inches away from reaching those Dryads, but hopefully, if I'm really lucky, I can get a long bomb charge off. Hopefully, I can roll a 10, 11, or a 12 and have those guys charge in and try to go into the Dryads. If I won't be able to do it, depending how I'm feeling at this point, if I can't do it, I'll have my Paladins charge directly into the Gurnoth Hunter instead. But at this point, I'm just kind of going for a Hail Mary because I need to break those Dryads before turn number 5. And here's a close-up of all my forces maneuvering, getting ready to attack those Dryads and to bring the pain. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. So during the shooting phase, I set a concentrate fire with my Lord Celestant as well as my Prosecutors, and I managed to put 5 wounds onto this unit of Dryads. 2 of those wounds were mortal wounds caused by my Lord Celestant, while the other 3 came from my Prosecutors. So, not so bad, not too shabby. So that's kind of nice. I can appreciate that. Kind of soften these guys up a little bit. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the charge phase. And all 3 of my units managed to successfully charge directly into the Dryads. So, Lord Relictor, Lord Grim charged the left-hand flank. My Paladins charged in the front. I rolled boxcars to see how far those guys would go. So some of these guys just kind of like went, and just like charged across the battlefield in their short, stubby little legs and actually made it engage in close combat. So that was kind of nice. And of course, my Lord Dracoth, my Lord Celestion Dracoth, I had no doubt that he would make the charge distance. So he came in on the right-hand side. So with the charge phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. Combat phase between my Prosecutors as well as this Gurnoth Hunter were less than awe-inspiring. As you can see, they're both just kind of stuck in the stalemate. The Gurnoth Hunter has 1 wound on it. Wasn't able to do much against him. The Gurnoth Hunter was unable to do much against my Prosecutors. So they're just kind of just staring at each other, just trading verbal insults because that's all they're really doing at this point. However, combat between the Dryads and my forces was an absolute slaughter. I managed to kill 15 Dryads during this combat phase. It was absolutely awe-inspiring to see that kind of damage take place. First of all, once again, my Lord Relictor proving to be proving to be really, really good. He did take a wound for his trouble, but he did kill 3 Dryads, which is not bad considering he has 4 attacks. So, way to go, Lord Grim. I'm starting to change my attitude about you. You're doing pretty good on that part. The Dryads did manage to put 2 wounds onto my Paladin Retributors, but luckily for me, my Paladins carry 3 wounds apiece. However, when it came for their Storm Hammers, their Lightning Hammers, just to kind of going like hi-ho on those guys and going Lumberjack style, something must have happened because when I rolled for their attacks, I rolled 6 6s for their attacks as well. So that's automatically 12 mortal wounds right off the bat. So most of that damage actually came from both my Lord Relictor as well as from my Retributors. Those guys just destroyed that unit of Dryads like it's nobody's business. Now, my Lord Celestin, however, he just kind of flipped his rolls. I've never seen so many 1s and 2s in my life when I rolled for his attack. So he really didn't do much of anything. Primary was my Paladins as well as my Retributors as well. So that was just absolutely brutal to see how much damage those guys just can cause on the battle just between them alone. So, yeah, very, very lucky on that one. So, needless to say, when we came to the Battleshock phase, my buddy Smells Like Febreze rolls D6, he rolls a 6, and because of that, the rest of his Dryads flee off the table because they just got blasted to pieces with some lightning goodness from some good old-fashioned Paladin Retributors, so that part was pretty awesome as well. Oh, I forgot to mention the last phase, my Lord Celestine took a wound as well. So, with that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 4 for the Sylvaneth. And it's at this point in the battle report that my friend decides to surrender the game. He only has the one Kurnoth Hunter left, and he knows that he has nothing that he can use to stop me. So because of that, the game ends, and the Stormcast Eternals win. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the After Action report because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright people, now it's time for the After Action report. This is the part of the battle report where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action report for Age of the Realms, battle report number 34, ended up being a victory for me, so that part was pretty awesome as well. For my losses, I did manage to lose my Liberators, so I lost the entirety of the judges, and for Smells Like Febreze, he lost Kodo the Warlord, the Court of Seasons, the Court of Heralds, as well as the Troop of Dawn. In the end, I made a really bad call, which basically made me kind of like have like a rebound effect where basically I lost a lot more troops than I really intended to in this battle report. I got overeager. I decided to put all my units directly into my enemy territory and to kill my enemy general, but in order to stop those Sylvaneth wobblers from popping up, but at the same time I also left my area vastly exposed, so that was a really bad call on that part. Which, the reason why I did that is because I really wanted to get rid of those Sylvaneth Wildwood's ability, but this kind of shows you that, like, this battle report goes to show, even if the Sylvaneth can't get their Wildwoods, they're still extremely dangerous just on their own as well. So for any of you guys who are haters out there who are like, oh, Sylvaneth Wildwoods are so overpowered, well, this battle report just kind of proves that process wrong, because even without them, they were still pretty freaking deadly, so very dangerous at that part. Once again, Kurnoth Hunters are, once again, one of the greatest things ever, especially when you equip them with great bows. They do a lot of shooting, they do pretty good in close combat, deal out mortal wounds. There's nothing those guys can't do. And at first, when I used to love them, they now haunt my nightmares. Plus, another thing is about this battle report, I was really impressed with my Lord Relictor. He really just kind of went out of the box in this one. He did a lot of buffing for my units. He put out a lot of mortal wounds. He did pretty good at fighting as well. So I am pretty proud of my Lord Relictor. So my opinion about that guy is vastly changed. So Lord Grimm, you're making me proud. On the other hand, Prosecutors I'm still not in love with. The only thing they're really good for is moving really, really fast, and that's about it. An army that only has like movement to like 7 as the maximum for most of my stuff, Prosecutors are pretty good, but maybe if I played a larger games where I had more Prosecutors or I had other flying units aside from just Prosecutors, they might be useful, but right now I'm not really too impressed with them anymore. Paladin Retributors are, of course, still the best thing about my army right now. Those guys can put out the pain like it's nobody's business. Once again, though, the only problem is that they are slow, so I'm going to have to use my Signs of the Storms ability a little bit better with those guys, so that way I can use them better for that one. But in the end, this was an awesome game. I had a fun time playing against Smells Like Febreze, and I'm looking forward to the next one. As always, you guys, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. Also, if you want to, check us out on Instagram, Google+, Blogger, as well as Facebook for all those great about our hobby. That's good to do for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We will catch you on the next one with our Mighty Empires. You guys stay classy. Keep it real.